So folks, we've got to not far from where the last video ended. Same place, but with this nice little area up through the woods, up to the right, and steps. It's not a signpost, but obviously it's a well-trodden path. So I'm going to have a little walk up here today. It's good for a puppy, obviously. It's good for them to explore. Within the last 2 months, she's come on leaps and bounds. Her athleticism, her abilities, her confidence, and this is what, you know, dogs need, don't they? Let's be honest, they really need this. And we're just lucky it's on our doorstep. But for people that are in the city, we're 20 minutes from the centre of Sheffield, 25 minutes depending on where you live, and obviously public transport. It's probably an hour from the centre of Sheffield on the bus, 20 so minutes in the car. Look at that lovely sunlight coming across. So I whistle. I always have done with my other dog, and I'm able to whistle between my teeth, so it's just a little calling rather than shouting all the time. And she's got so used to it. So yeah, let's have a little wander up here and see where this takes us. And I've not been up here before, so it's going to be an adventure, which is what we all need. Now, only just a few weeks ago, my health was such that I would have been puffing and panting up here. And I'm not going to bore people with my health problems. We've all got them, but one of them is chronic. Two probably, actually. I'm falling apart. Mabel. But it means that I gain weight fairly easily because I overeat. I'm greedy. But it is a partly psychological and partly physical problem. So having lost nearly 2 stone in 2021, most of it, less than 5 or 6 pounds, has gone back on again within the space of an illness and overeating and lack of activity. And the older you get, of course, the easier it is to retain weight or put it back on again. I think we all know that. This isn't really a health video, but it's, you know, it's all intertwined, isn't it? So come on then. So it's taking us up to, I think, an area actually I might have walked on before, up through the woods. Fairly well trodden path. And I remember when I first moved around here, coming up, not up this path, but onto an area similar. What's she doing? Trying to get sticks again. One thing I must say, obviously, with dogs is toadstools, mushrooms, etc. And when the puppies, of course, or any dog, they'll put anything in their mouth. So it's really like having a baby crawling alongside you. But they're pretty hardy as well, but you've got to be very, very careful with them. So that's the risk you take between their activity, all the socialisation, just like us, all those other things, athleticism, adventure, the balance between that risk and reward. Risk and reward in life. We get nowhere without taking some risks. And some people, they might watch this, no, it's completely wrong, especially with a puppy, but, you know, I respect that. This is my dog, and I love her like every other creature in my life, and I'll treat her with the utmost respect, and she needs to explore. But you can bet your bottom dollar I've got one eye on her all the time. I'm keeping a close eye on her. She has had one little episode recently. Well, she obviously had something in her stomach that disagreed with her, and she frothed, and she got rid of it that way, and it wasn't pleasant for her at all. So whatever it was, it certainly didn't kill her, and her body naturally expelled it, thankfully. Now this is good because I can talk and walk up a hill. So with that excess weight on me, it shows that my fitness is slowly coming back. Come on then. That's great as well to see these dogs running about. It really is. Oh, there's an old stone there. There's an old stone that says NB on it, and it's old. It really is old, that. So that's got some history next to this little brook here. A little stream running down. Interesting. Remnants of something that was there before. Has been here before. What that is. Very interesting. Right, come on then, mate. Oh. Now then, it cuts off to the right here, flattens out, which I'm going to have a look at. Come on. Good girl, good girl. But we're going to carry on climbing up through the wood because I really want to know what's up here. I know there's farmers' fields at the top. And another great thing as well is obviously get yourself an ordnance survey map for the area that you like walking in the most. We bought one for this area recently, mainly to find out what was what. Heights of places. They have them in meters, contour lines on. People that haven't used them before. And obviously place names, which I find very interesting. Fascinating historically wise. Archaeological finds are on there, burial sites, etc. And footpaths, obviously, legal footpaths. Now there was no sign at the bottom of this one, but this is obviously some sort of well-trodden path. So nobody's objecting, nobody's here. Excuse me. So the higher up we're going, the snowier it is on the ground, and she's loving it. Look at that. They do this charging, don't they? Every so often they'll have a charge just to get really. This shows they're really, really excited and having fun. I really do think it is. Come on then. She's really. Oh, steady. She's loving it. You can tell she's loving it. It's grand. Off again. And of course as well, we have the leads, we have the whistles, we have the commands. We think we're somehow in control of them. But they're generally in control of us, let's be honest, aren't they? All dogs are. Come on, floppy ears. So dog prices as well. We bought her for £600 6 months ago. Had to go to South Wales to pick her up, and she's a crossbreed, which has become more popular, hasn't it? Let's be honest. Kennel Club registered a grand. My first dog was Kennel Club registered. Certainly wasn't £2,000, like most people seem to be paying. Oh, they've paid during the lockdown. Can't remember what it was. It was a few £100s anyway, but probably 250. The walk just starts to flatten out here now, and I can see there's a electric pylon through. Now I've been up here before, but I made my own way up, and I don't know whether I came on a well-trodden path, but this is lovely. So there's oak, there's silver birch up here, there are larch, I believe, another of our native evergreens, although larch do drop a lot of the needles. Birch in clusters, small stands of oak, and I'm looking around for anything else that particularly stands out, but there's a lot of oak up here. And this is a fantastic area to walk, and to walk with your dog. Some people don't like woodland, they like the vistas. I like it all, to be honest. It's just fantastic. You know, this, you can see how we've evolved to be out in nature. And I hope people do get some interest from this. I think it's, even if it's just half a dozen people, I'll be happy. Yes, there's a red-barked Scots pine, as they're known. There's a stand of them up here, a group of them, stand. And you can tell by the red hue of the bark. It's lovely. And they're another of our native evergreens, along with holly, yew, and larch, which I've just mentioned. Scots pine, which is European pine. It occurs all over the UK, I believe, and up into Europe. And I believe there are 5 native evergreens, and I'm trying to think what the other one is. And it'll probably come into my mind when I least expect it. There's bracket fungus as well on this well-rotted, dying silver birch. I don't know if you can just see those, there's a few, and I believe they're edible. But this isn't a video about what you can and can't eat in the woods, so always do your due diligence and check on using guides and other advice before you eat anything. But you get those on dying wood quite often. And silver birch, which that one is there, can be very, very old. Don't get very tall. That was a big tree, so that is an old tree. So would we class this as semi-ancient natural woodland? I'm not a woodland specialist. I'd like to think that maybe one day, but I doubt it. It's too much to learn. However, there's got to be remnants, and I think there's got to be trees over, and please correct me, because I'm guessing here. It's a very small thing at the back of my mind, a memory. 250 plus with the trees, but I've just seen beech trees down the bottom on the other side of this woodland, which have a girth which suggests they're well over 200 years old. And a nice one for your kids to have some fun with is stretch your arm. So an adult arm span, fingertip to other fingertip, is roughly 100 years growth on a deciduous tree. That's a very rough guide on big old trees. Not these silver birch and smaller trees which grow much slower, but on larger trees. So obviously one arm span around is 100 years. And if you've done it a few times with your kids, you'll soon tell, roughly when you look at a tree, how many adult arm spans you can get around them. And of course everybody varies in the arm span, don't they? Off she goes in front there. So this track continues. It's taking me back along the top, and it's lovely. Look at that light. Fantastic. It's just beautiful. So nice. There's fallen trees down here. We did that storm back in, was it early December, November, wasn't it? When lots of trees came down. An awful lot in Scotland. An awful lot up there, because they had the brunt of it, didn't they, the northeast. But we still took some of it, and obviously and that's naturally what happens during storms. It thins out the dead trees. So I'm climbing over here, a fallen tree, and we're trotting on down. It's not that crunching. Well, no, it is. So there's more Scots pines here. Often they just have their needles at the top, and they reach for the light next to pines and silver birch and holly. And they're the main trees I've seen in this top part of the wood. Down the bottom, as I say, there are quite a few beech, but up here it's all oak. So is it a managed or semi-managed woodland? Have these been put here to be one day felled? It's unusual because there's a lot of mixture in here of broadleaves and what you might use, Scotch pines and larch, in a commercial forest, but it doesn't look to me like they've been planted. I think they've randomly grown and they're naturally here. So actually, I don't think this is going to be felled. And then that gets us into the issue of ownership and who owns what with woodlands and farmland. Very interesting topic. But I did notice something recently that English Heritage, I believe, the biggest and fastest growing owner of land, and behind the Crown, the Queen, they're only second behind the Queen in land ownership, and it's all publicly owned in trust, of course, all paid for by its members and wealthy benefactors who've left houses and land for the public to enjoy. So the track comes to another fork here, it drops down or it cuts across the top, and I've definitely been here before. I found my way up here, but this time it's a lot easier to find. Oh, look at this, there's a brook running down here on either side of this raised area, which could well be man-made, it's tricky to say. Is a gathering of water, a pond, whatever you want to call it, and it must be leaking. It is, you can see it leaking down and under this raised area. Now, was this, it's not a railway line because it drops down further, but was this some form of old track that's been put in? May well be. I apologise. So I hope everybody's well. Oh, that's a big tree, that's a larch, that's massive. Gosh. It's interspersed, and it's lovely this, because this isn't a managed woodland at all. It's just been left. Whether it used to be years ago, it doesn't look like it ever has been. So then I'll be fascinated then to find out the ownership of it, what the plans are for it, especially if you live nearby to it. But it's just great to feel like you're involved, who owns things, and you can find out who owns what with the land registry. So if you search it obviously on Google, and you can find out. I think your fee is usually about £31, £32 at the moment, 2021 prices, 22, to find out who owns a particular land. So when somebody buys something, it has to be registered, you have to pay for it to be registered, change of ownership, so you can find out who owns it. And my partner bought me a very interesting book last Christmas, not this one, about land ownership, rights to roam, areas. You know, it opens up such a wide, varied topic. And me being a Peak District lad, in the Derbyshire Dales and High Peak, I was always out. And then obviously with the with the Kinder Trespass on Kinder Scout down near above Edale, the first Manchester youngsters came out on the trains and started to protest against the lack of access to land on the moors there. Some were put in prison, I believe, down in Derby. All this is off the top of my head. Well, I've watched something recently about it actually, and it opened up eventually more rights to roam, but we still have far less in England and Wales than Scotland. The Scottish Parliament and the people have done a grand job up there, but of course the population is a lot smaller than England. There's different pressures there on landowners to manage the land while opening it up to it for access. And then obviously there's disease as well. People tend to forget this. We have all sorts of problems now with ash dieback, ash trees. That can be carried, I believe, on your feet. Correct me if I'm wrong. Moved in and other diseases spreading within our native tree populations. And things do have to die, but if you've got something that's spreading through a population, very difficult. But then it opens up other opportunities for other trees and plants to benefit from their problems. However, we don't want all our ash trees dying off, do we? It's another subject. If you're interested, have a little look, see what you can find out about it, and drop me a comment. So we're still flat on here, and it's grand. I'm not struggling. Like I told you earlier on, I'm 53. I'm a good size. I'm reasonably athletic, but this for me with extra weight is smashing because I'm walking on pine needles that have dropped. And there's an old hedge line here of some sort looking at it because it's in a straight line. So it looks like that might well have been planted. And you can look out for these features. And something I learnt yesterday watching Amanda Owen, the Yorkshire Shepherdess, on one of the BBC walks, she was talking about hawthorn or blackthorn trees. They don't get overly big. That was a little nest box somebody's put up there. They don't get overly large, but they can be, an average sized tree can be well over 200-300 years old. And I didn't know that. I've always had an interest in them, and I know they're one of the trees in Britain that are fantastic for wildlife. I believe the oak is one of the best, I've been reliably told. Yeah, it's all mixed down here. Lots of saplings we've just walked through. Small suckers off these trees here. And then obviously from seeds that have dropped or been buried by squirrels. Mabel, come on then. Oh, she's got one of her ears as flat back. Looks so cute. I was a bit concerned if it's blowing that when they do flat back on these types of breeder dogs that they get a lot of cold in them or rain, so I tend to catch her and flap it back over, but it's just a cuteness side with these dogs with very long flappy ears. Just don't want them caught as she's going through, but she's fine. There she is. So we're coming down over here, and if I'm not mistaken, looking at, we've got beach again up here, so we've moved into a beach area. Can often be an indication of soil change, drainage, and beach there behind. And there's a lot of them here to the left, but not down to the right. There's a few, but I think there's one or two sycamores. No, it's beech actually. That's something I've not seen up here, is sycamore. Supposedly brought over here from Europe by the Romans, I believe. That was one of the conjectures. But again, this is interesting as to what's been here between the ice ages and what hasn't. But aren't these fantastic? And a big interest of mine, of course, is, and Amanda Owens, the Yorkshire Shepherdess, really want. I'd love to have a conversation with somebody like this about all this lamb that we're breeding. And I'm not a vegetarian, I love lamb, but I do try and get as much, as many veg and fruit as I can in my diet. But what we could potentially start to have on more mixed farms as we're able to change the eating habits, and we're going to need to, aren't we? We're going to need to change our eating habits over the coming years, as societies have always done to survive. And whether on these purely upland areas that farmers and specialists tell us are only really suitable for grazing, could we possibly develop trees and shrubs that might be able to give us food as well, while benefiting the environment? Grass is fine, isn't it? It's lovely. but it's a monoculture, and trees aren't, of course. But of course trees with any fruit on or anything like that, nuts, berries, seeds, have to be managed again because everything wants to eat them. So you've always got those issues, but that's something again that interests me, as to know whether that could be, Mabel's found something that could be done. Mabel's found or heard something here. Sense of hearing is supposed to be fantastic. Sense of smell even more so. Is it 50 times this breed of dog better than humans? Absolutely. Spends most of the time tail up, nose down. That's what she's been bred to do, isn't it? Bloodhound in her. And we go then. And you say, oh, once you've had a breed of dog and you've fallen in love with that breed, oh, you'll always have. I was listening to Chris Packham on one of his walks the other day, and toy poodles, always had them, miniature poodles, and he adores them, so he always has them now. And I think dog owners will say the same thing. And I think all you're trying to do is stick with your memories of what you had with your other dog. And I was going to go for a Labrador, but actually this breed came up and I thought, I'll give this a try. It looks similar. They look like labs anyway. They've got similar traits and behaviours. They're more hunting. They're much more hunting than labs. But the behaviours in the forest and field is very, very similar. Very, very similar. And all dogs, obviously, with a personality and the breeds do vary. So we're dropping down now. We're flattened and then we're dropping. And I think we're going to meet another track just here. I don't really know where this is taking me, which is great. I've got an idea. I can still see the reservoir through the trees, but I can't hear the road hardly. If I listen, I can, just in the background, but hardly. So we come down again. We've got another little T-junction. And you can either cut off down the path there, that goes steeply down the hill, careful mate, or you can drop round this corner here. Now I remember this from about 2 years ago. Came down here and then you couldn't really get any further. Oh, she's put a pheasant up. That's the job. Bird hunting. Yeah. So that was another one in this stand of holly here. Oh, it's a shame, but they're fine. Off they've gone. Yeah. So you can't cut across here. Again, this looks as though it might be man-made. It really does. So this will be another interest for me to get out that map and see what is up here, what's been marked. And it might not be. It might just be post-glacial. Who knows? But then you can see where people have walked. Oh, there's actually some steps here. There's some steps in. And they've actually got old concrete on them. So something's happened up here years ago. Whatever it was. So somebody's actually gone to the trouble of putting steps in. Just there. Covered in moss. But still visible and usable. And we can hear the tinkling of water down to the left there. It's quite a deep gorge. And that's got overgrown in that top area. So we'll continue down, as I did 2 years ago. I've got a rough idea. I think last time, I climbed up through these trees at the bottom. I remember now. I climbed up around and just generally tried to follow the contours of the land. I remember how beautiful it is down in this glade. Now this is obviously a walk I will show now to my partner, and she's my harshest critic when it comes to these videos, but she told me recently to do the walking videos. Hopefully I've got quite a relaxing voice and it comes across in the videos. We're coming down here now, and these were here before, so the storms haven't blown them down, so nothing's happened in 2 years, but they must have been rebuilt surely. They're all dens that kids have made. Kids have come up and made them. What great fun that is for your kids to do. Remember it well. Making a den is all the fun and the rage. I don't think that'll ever leave a child's mind. Yeah, this is beautiful down here, and the leaf litter is dense and thick with beech, and it'll all rot down and add to that fantastic network in the soil that we've heard so much about. And through the light there we come to some fields bathed in sunlight but still covered in frost. Beautiful light, the water in the bottom. How I got across there before, I vaguely remember actually. But I don't particularly think it is a true route. And then that gets me into another subject, which is rights to roam and access rights. Up in Scotland, as long as you're not damaging a crop or a field boundary, high fence, stone walls, worrying livestock with your dog. You know, dogs always should be on leads, not taking your dog really through anything that you could worry any sort of livestock. You need to be very respectful of that, and unfortunately there's just a minority of dog owners that don't understand. Have to be very careful around livestock. Like lambs, sheep can abort their lambs if they're scared and worried. So it's not great. So obviously just try and learn. There's plenty of info out there, isn't there? So just learn before you go out and use your common sense, you know. But dogs on leads are imperative. Don't take them through any cows and calves. So many people get killed. They'll chase the dog. Horrendous. People forget. They see them as wolves, and they are wolves, aren't they? Let's be honest. Dogs are genetically proven to be wolves, so they will be protecting their calves, and they'll come at you and they'll try to kill the dog, and unfortunately some people then go and try and save the dog and they get killed themselves. So that can be horrendous. So just be very, very mindful and respectful when you're out in the countryside. Shut all gates. If you're going to go off-piste, off-grid and not follow routes in England and Wales, then obviously you can be told to leave. There's so few people in the countryside these days, you often just don't get seen. So if you take a wrong route rather, for whatever reason, as long as you're respectful, I don't see any harm in that. But I'm sure that's controversial, and I'm sure people will want to have something to say about it, especially farmers. Most farmers are sensible, they know, but most farmers will also have a story to tell you about damage to livestock and walls and fencing that's cost them all a lot of money. So they're very protective. So whether they're tenant farmers and they rent the land, or whether they're owners, either or, they're going to be just as protective and proud of their livelihood. So this phone I'm filming on today is a camera phone. It's Huawei 5, and I think the pixel quality is fantastic. The volume might not necessarily be, but there's no wind today. I've no pinned on mic, so if you lose some of it, I apologise. I'm obviously going to review it before I upload it, and this has been 3 videos with the same walk. Oh yes, we're coming down now. I remember, we're coming down now. So there is actually a stile here over this brook. There's a sign there saying public footpath. That's always a good sign. On this tree is Mabe coming to tell me that she's found the route. So slippy stones, across, round, lovely babbling brook at the bottom. Beautiful old, what look like old gate posts to me, but they look slippy. I'm going to be careful. I'm just in these. They're running trainers. They've got a good grip on. They're not bad, even so. Be very, very careful. So this actually goes down and round the side of this field. Ah, see it? Yes, I've worked out now. I was wondering, you know, when you see a stile, you know, little stiles in Derbyshire and Yorkshire, I believe, little hole through a fence with a signpost. You think, oh, I must try that. I'll go and do that one day. I've been looking at this. This takes us back down to the main A616. It's very muddy down here. Of course, it's the bottom of the valley, and the sun's on it, so the temperature's just shot up by a couple of degrees as I've walked into the sunshine, and already I'm only 100 yards away from the road. Now then, whether I'm going to be able to get over this little bridge with the dog on a lead, I'm going to see. So we'll walk one down. Come on then, mate. Very slippy down the bottom here. Lots of holly to the right. Holly like it down in these little sheltered glades, and they'll be making the most of the opportunity of all this sunshine. Lovely black, almost black stems with holly. Beautiful. So it takes us down now to this. I need to go a bit slower here because we're a little bit downhill. Right, so that actually goes up and over just here. Oh, Mabel's found a little route through, always handy. She's gone through the hole. I'm going to go over this slippy stile. Oh, and it's actually got chicken wire on it. So somebody's kindly put chicken wire on to stop us slipping. And then there's a little bridge, drainage here, down to the same stream, which looks like it goes down and then must go under the road further down and out into the reservoir at the bottom. So because of the situation with the dog here now, I'm going to be sensible and near to the road and cut off for now.